All right, here we are. Are we live? Looks
Not
like
on my screen, not on my screen. It's always the same thing on your screen. Yes.
he tells me,
Good.
yeah, are we good?
We're good.
Great.
We're good.
Awesome, man. Another round of
Yes.
this thing. Xenia, great to
Yes.
have you here once again, or to be here with you once again.
Yeah. What do we talk about today? Today we talk about
I,
the conversation started with an interesting study of EY, which was recently released, and it said that 55% of neurodivergents are more likely to use AI to improve their work and access to information. And our conversation was starting around my critical aspect of
countercritical.
countercritical opinion about AI, or specifically ChatGPT, and the use in therapeutic settings. I'd like to preface that I'm talking about my experience, and I am well rounded when it comes to therapeutic um, programs or the science behind it. And it's really also about the prompt. However, I recently discovered that there are some of the ChatGPT streams which you can use, or apps within ChatGPT. And there's also trauma therapists, for instance. And I played around with this as well. And I'm really surprised as to the quality you can get when you ask the right questions and when you frame it in a way that you refer to, for instance, somatic experiencing, or trauma experts such as Peter Levine or Bessel van der Kolk, and just, prime ChatGPT in that way. And therefore, you have a vast experience. And I am amazed with the results I could
Yeah,
provoke in those chats. So,
absolutely. No, I get that. And I mean, we are both partially of the same coin here, or same coin, but of the same kind of personality configuration. And one more thing, I don't know whether you just mentioned it. This EY study was conducted with a sample of 2,000 people. So that's interesting to mention because quite some of these studies have N of 30 or 50 or whatever, so it's not that representative. Here, even though there's always some bias based on the sample that you use, you can say with 2,000 people, you can draw some conclusions from it. And so using AI in, let's say, any setting where it should support you in transformal processes, right? If this therapy, if it's kind of coaching or consulting, um, lots of people right now are raging against the use of AI in these settings and go like, yeah, you shouldn't do it. It's not a person. It tricks you into feeling understood and you get addicted to it. And so while this is partially true, especially for people who might be very young, early in life, or for people who are, how to say that, uh,
highly influential,
highly,
deceptive. I don't know.
yeah, exactly, into this direction, right? Where you can simply drop info at them and they will chew it and it will be part of them. So it's to be taken with cautiousness, definitely. But apart from that, you have a huge opportunity here for talking to the AI agent, which is pretty helpful in order to learn more about yourself and to have this mirror. And the theory or the hypothesis that we came up with is that for neurodivergent people, it might be even easier to open up to such technology because for many neurodivergent people, it's harder to talk to other human beings. Strange as it might sound for some, but it can for you be a valid communicational process to interact with an AI agent. You know it's not a human, but it doesn't matter. in this situation. It can still give you all the benefits that you need because you have this mirror of your own personality. You get to new ideas that it gives you, and which is it is able to give you from a much larger capacity and library of frameworks, of inputs, of ideas. You know, where like a normal therapist, they have their toolbox,
Human bias as well.
human bias, exactly, they have biases,
Yeah.
and so there's always certain limitations that are part of the human condition. Now,
Yeah.
talking to the AI agent might actually be more effective for you because of that access to more info. And also, if you do it with some persistence and take some time to really check in on a daily basis or several times weekly, and then after a few weeks, a month, you ask for patterns that it can surface, then you might be up for quite some an epiphany, you know, because it can see things in you that you mentioned that normally would slip through the cracks of memory for most people because they can simply not process it all. And so it's not a clear-cut recommendation over here, but it's definitely the suggestion to play around with it, to try it, to experiment with it, and to simply see what happens, you know, instead of simply generically going like, oh no, this isn't my thing, I shouldn't do it.
Yeah, I agree. Of course, I think to preface everything, every tool which you use requires an understanding, or at least a basic understanding of how learning models work, what the setups are in order to have good prompts and good frameworks, because ChatGPT, for instance, also allows for chats to be framed in a certain way. So you can have a presetting of the particular project or chat, and then you can actually also have a proper prompt. So it's an art, it's a skill set to use ChatGPT skillfully. So that's something which is to be taken into consideration. And then looking towards the study where those 50% more likely to use AI, of course, this is not primarily ChatGPT. They didn't specify which AI they use. And I think what I also know from my own experience is many neurodivergents tend to use ChatGPT for decoding of social norm, and then as a sounding or buddy system where you can, as you said, drop in information and get some really, really good analytical analysis on the next step to take or things you didn't consider. The pseudo relationship, which many people experience, is one part where I think, I don't know if neurodivergents are more affected by this or that they have a tendency for that to happen. I'm not too sure, because if you're aware of the fact what ChatGPT is or AI is, I happen to be always astonished, and I have been using it quite a while now. So I see the development of the humanizing of ChatGPT. You know, when you see this is a weird way of response, which triggers some irritation. So let's say it like this. So I'm noticing the development, and I notice that with caution. So it's really a cautious endeavor. But if you know how to use the tool, I find it quite interesting, especially with access to data in certain setups like the therapeutic setup. Because primarily in Germany, and that was my experience, is that most of the therapists, doctors in Germany, I don't want to be too brutal with my statement here, but it's my opinion and my experience, and I can only judge from the things I lived through, is that especially in nervous system related new nuances and new developments, most of the therapists have no idea. You know, they don't keep up to date. Most of the people in Germany tend to German data. And my personal opinion is that Germany lost long time ago, lost the connection to be up to date with the newest standard and the technology in science, especially in psychology. And also, and then I stop there, is the interdisciplinary connection of different fields, which I find relevant, even more relevant today. You will not generate innovation within a certain expertise domain. I think we need, that's my opinion. We reached a lot, but I think as of now, we need to learn to step out of certain domains and interconnect. That's why neurodivergent thinking becomes so relevant for the future. And lastly, the limitations which I notice with learning models such as ChatGPT or Perplexity is that they can't mirror this divergent mind. I often struggle, for instance, to express something which I'm naturally struggling with. So I tend to ChatGPT for help. And ChatGPT, again, is linear. How can it not be? So it doesn't mirror the divergent divergent thought strings, which I'd like to have. So it's less complex, like I wish it to be. But then on the other hand, that's the advantage, right? It dumbs things down. It helps you to declutter.
Yeah, I mean,
Can't
it's
have both, I guess.
might be an issue of how you prompt it, honestly. To say, hey, come on,
Really?
more pretend you're neurodivergent too today. The AI,
I
you
did
know,
this as well. It didn't
um,
help, but I have to say maybe the chat was too long, you know?
yeah, yeah. I mean, really, once the chat gets too long, then it gets slow and tries to reference to everything that has happened before. No, I made a really great experience on these things by ChatGPT setting up projects. You can do the
Mhm.
same in Claude, for example, where you then give specific instructions and say, "Hey, look, you are my neurodivergent mentor. I am XYZ, that's my condition, and I'm really looking for you to help me to structure my thinking, but also make me aware of all the ramifications that I could venture into." Yeah, and so you can then have it as your thinking buddy in a lots of ways. And it can also help you because, like many authors nowadays use it, not to compile the texts necessarily, but to get beyond writer's block. You know, you can have this little bit of a chat with it on the topics that you want to talk about in your book or whatever your text is going to be. And then this chatting with another instance, although it's not human, lets your creative juices get
Yeah.
flowy, you know? And so this is very, very helpful for lots of people. And it gives you that, which in neurodivergent terms we call the body doubling, where you say you can be in the same room. It can also simply be a Zoom room that you have open. You don't have to be in the same physical space at the same time. And to simply have this kind of mutual attention in a space already helps you to have your brain start working on things, to become creative, to become productive. And once again, as a neurodivergent, especially when, for example, it's autism for you or HSP, highly sensitive persona, it might be that like a full human being on the other side can be too much stimuli for you. Yeah, strange as it sounds, but so that simply only having some text coming, even if it's not a human being, it can be just the right amount of signal and stimuli for you to get out of your head and start doing, start producing. And so, in that way, once you use it effectively with awareness, with consciousness,
Yeah.
then it can be a great body for you.
Yeah.
There was one thing I mentioned initially that I think I wanted to get into deeper, but right now I lost out on what it was. Um, but so, bottom line, have your project, do the right instructions, and then simply dive into the experience and also have it as an experiment. At first, be quite open. Don't be too goal oriented, don't be too achieverish while you're doing it. Have a clear intention, but then be open for the process. Because else it can go like, I want to reach XYZ within the next 2 weeks, please help me. and then you step too much into this obsessive kind of, all right,
Hmm.
no, I need to do this with my AI agent, and then you set yourself up for frustration. Instead, create the game so you can win it.
Okay, that's a good one. Create a game so that you can win it. So I summarized a few of the functionalities which we discussed. So AI can be a Kickstarter, so for
Yeah,
creative writing processes or to start some ideas and develop them further. It can be a social decoder for neurodivergent people. It can be a declutterer in a way, body doubler. It also gives you access to data. And what I would love to add here, it mirrors clarity. Because when you should in, should out, right? If your prompt is unclear, this is
Gigo,
the
garbage
response you
in,
will
garbage out.
get.
Yeah,
Sorry?
Gigo, garbage in, garbage out.
Yes, exactly. And then two things which I wanna slightly use with caution, I'd say. So one thing is the content creation part. I've realized or noticed recently quite a lot of ChatGPT content, and you can clearly see it. The pattern is always the same. This is not an XY problem; it's an XYZ problem. The really short frame sentences or comparisons, which always sound the same. I think these are patterns
Definitely.
which everyone can see nowadays, and I wonder who's training whom. This is also something which I like to put into discussions every now
Can
and
you
then.
feel your own mind adapting to AI, right?
Right. Yeah, I see that
Definitely.
because people
Yeah,
usually tend to speak about the tool or the software or AI in itself. How will this change? What is innovation? And I think the talk should be more around how are we changing due to AI? So the system human interface. I think this is more relevant and important. Less talk about this, unfortunately. I think we should really talk about that and have guardrails in place for humans, not for companies, to really understand, okay, what does this to me as a person and my own development? But that's a different story. One thing about the usage, which I would like to also add, because I experienced this, is that you can have a setting in ChatGPT if ChatGPT should suggest more ideas. And that setting is not always helpful for people like me with ADHD, because whenever I drop some ideas or if I have a concept and then ChatGPT suggests improvement or further ideas, I'm like, yes, great. So I started with
get so
one
excited,
thing,
right? Yeah.
15
Maybe
hours later,
you're
none
using
the wiser.
ChatGPT. Eminem would be so proud here. No.
So that's something which I realized. So the more struggle I have, or the more chaos I have, and the more urgency I emanate, and this is the energy I bring to the table, the more this gets convoluted and the less productive the tool becomes for me. And that's what I meant with guardrails, really being aware. How am I feeling? How am I doing?
Totally.
How clear is my goal? How clear am I really? And
No,
it can be
absolutely.
a
And
good.
I can
Sorry.
also drop just
Yeah.
for courses of illustration, a short story from how it oftentimes works in my work with clients, where people also oftentimes is ADHD, autism, ADHD spectrum. And so what happens is you love all of these ideas. It's such a great dopamine kick you get all the time. And with your favorite AI agent, this happens on steroids, basically, where
Mhm.
before you might have 5 ideas in every 15 minutes, by now it's unlimited. And they all look so shiny, fancy, sexy. You can really enjoy simply getting into it, these ideas, digging into them, imagining how you're going to execute on all of them, which is never going to happen, right? And so um, it's really something that people I work with enjoy then at some point to be able to cut it down and to
Mhm.
really get clarity once again and to I for example I love this graphic where you from left to right you first have all these branches going up like exploring but then they distill down once again to one point where you say, now this is exploitation. So first
Ah.
exploring, then exploitation.
Mhm.
Exploitation sounds a bit toxic, but explore, exploit, right? It sounds good in its own way. But this thing about, sure, have your ideas, but then also have your execution guardrails, because else you're all over the place. And then you are like this person in this Russian proverb, he who tries to chase two rabbits at once ends up getting neither, you know.
Right.
So you have to be very cautious to have a focus on, it doesn't even have to be one thing only, but have your priorities straight so that your focus is really dwelling on those, make them bigger, give yourself a time frame, say, I take this quarter in order to make X, Y, Z in my business, in my life bigger, and then I can go into exploration once again. But for the rest of the quarter, I won't try 5 new offers and 6 new channels and funnels and whatever it is, because else you will never scale that way. It just won't happen.
Yeah, but that's the problem, right? I mean, you speak about competencies, which naturally some of neurodivergence, especially ADHD people, are lacking. You talk about self-regulation, organization, compartmentalization. I mean, these are all of the things which naturally are not necessarily available for us. So what would you recommend? I know you love time boxing and stuff like that. So tools which will help you to externalize some self-regulatory tools. What's your go-to?
I mean, look, first thing is that, and which is one of the like basic differences that neurodivergents tend to have as opposed to neurotypicals, is that your energy, aka your focus, your excitement, your ability to persist in a certain thing, it is not linear, but it rather fluctuates and is rhythmic. And so the first thing here is to really find out what's your personal rhythm. So through the week, through the month, some women are much better with this due to natural cycles that happen. They are much more in touch with rhythmic energy levels. So men
Oh,
often
yeah.
have big
Yeah.
insights in that. Yeah, because you have this kind of a basic understanding of, there are rhythms, so I can adapt to it in
It's
order.
not just a basic understanding. It's hormones. It's
Yeah,
powerful.
absolutely, it is. But that's for another day. So no, but women tend to be better with this oftentimes.
Yeah.
But so
We
to get
have a
back to it,
cycle,
to,
so yeah.
to
Yeah.
get back to it, you have to find out what is your personal rhythm of energy, of focus, and you can find that out by simply doing some basic tracking on it. To check in a couple of times daily, and then write a short note, and after a week or two, simply compare it. Where in the week, where in the day is my best energy going? And then you can use these spots in order to do what's most important. And you can then compare this. I love the analogy. Learn to surf the waves. You will never control the ocean. It simply won't happen. But you can become an excellent surfer and thereby be able to catch the waves with the right timing and get this analytical understanding plus intuitive feeling for how the waves behave and how you can best ride them, you know. And so in this way you can then, so to speak, ride the waves of your own self, because it's not linear. You have to understand yourself. You have to actually build this connection, this relationship to your own energy level.
But how does this translate this to me, or try to translate that to the usage of ChatGPT, or I always tend to say ChatGPT, I mean AI in general. How would that look like? What in your personal experience or with clients, when can AI become toxic, for instance, according to your own energy level? Is there something which you experienced or with your clients where you said, okay, that would be a sign to, note down for future reference and understand this is where it turned
Well, look,
negative?
just for to be clear, the tool that I just outlined with tracking energy levels wasn't explicitly something that you'd have to do with AI. You can also use whatever works for you as a tracker. It's one basic pillar of becoming highly efficient as a neurodivergent. Now, using AI tools with it, one thing that you can do is to have one AI chat or project and use it as a journal, and to simply regularly write in there, hey, right now it's this day of the week, this time I'm feeling on 8 out of 10 in energy, and this just happened. And so simply feed it the phenomena that you have, right? Give it the data points. And then later on, you can tell it to, hey, now based on what we talked about during the last 2 weeks, please evaluate the data points that I gave you and let me know what seems to be, from your perspective, my best energy moments, my lowest energy moments. Give me the pattern. Yeah, so this is one thing, how you can use this in order to find out about yourself. The other that you just mentioned on what might be the pitfalls or the long-term dangers is that you can get into full-blown analysis paralysis with your AI, where you go deeper and deeper and deeper, and you get into this kind of a doom prompting, where you talk to your AI agent and you feel like, oh yeah, I'm gaining clarity all the time. I find out so much about myself. I see my patterns. Oh, it's such a bliss to talk to this AI agent. I can do it for hours at a time. It doesn't get boring. And so here the pitfall is that you actually get into overthinking and clarity perfectionism, where you feel like you are incrementally growing in clarity because you find out some more ramification, and here's something else, and here it is. And yeah, these aren't too bad.
Yeah, but these are the loops, right? You're already in the loop, whatever loop it is. And yeah,
like, look, you can compare this to the analogy is a bit quirky, but I think it's on point. You can find out how to drive a Volkswagen to a great degree, to really know how to drift this thing, how to use it in all kinds of different conditions in the weather. But at some point, you simply should switch the car and get yourself your Mercedes or your Bentley or whatever it is. And you cannot progress by learning more about your Volkswagen. I'm not into cars, so whoever wants to go down on this analogy, do it yourself. It's not my thing, but it's actually a great way of looking at it, because you can analyze the situation in great depth, but at some point it won't get you any further. But then you get actionable, and then you get to the point where clarity and confidence only comes from taking action. It doesn't come from any further analysis, from any further thinking about it. At that point, thinking is just procrastination with a better branding, really. And so, yeah, I would say this is the biggest pitfall, to get to a high level of clarity.
Good point.
And it looks like it does. And one more thing here to look out for, because these are pretty clear patterns that you can spot when you interact with your AI agent. It's that it uses 3 communicational aspects that are great to keep you in the loop. One is it will always, even if locally, compliment you. It will never be too direct and too like, hey, calling out the bullshit. It won't happen.
I disagree with that, but in general, but I have prompted it.
Let's go into this, right? Because it sounds interesting. Because up until now, AI agents are often made to complement you, to keep you in the loop. But I'm really curious on how the experience is for you. The other is that lots of people trust AI because it has this implicit high level of competence, of IQ, of pattern recognition. So you have sometimes a little too much trust, more trust than it actually deserves. And the last thing is that it tends to give you these generic statements, like when you read a horoscope and tells you, yeah, you met someone and you have a great connection with this person, and so something will come out of this. And yeah, you can find this in almost every situation in life, that somehow or you have the feeling that something is about to happen, some breakthrough is right on its way. Okay, yeah, you can always have this, right? And these are really cheesy examples. It can be a little more complex, which it does, but it happens a lot, and you have to be cautious of this.
Yeah,
but
I agree.
You wanted to talk about, does AI call you out on the bullshit?
Absolutely. Oh, absolutely, it does.
How did you train it to do that?
I did train it consecutively, almost with every prompt. I also, of course, have my environment set up in a way that it learns from the cross communication, so across the chats. And when I have a specific task, I am priming it as well. And it works to such a extent that it happened 2 or 3 times. I was quite surprised because I was eager to do something, and ChatGPT really said, no, absolutely not. That's bullshit. And you know exactly why. So if you know, but this requires, of course, to understand what are your inner hurdles, what is it that you deviate from naturally, what is your trauma loop, and all of this. So it has to do. It all comes down to the quality of your prompt again, and how well you communicate and how clear you are. But also happened to my sister. So my sister, it can spot patterns in a way if you enable it to. So, and then this is the body doubling versus or pattern recognition aspect, which we discussed as well. So my ChatGPT is quite brutally honest with me.
Okay,
Of course, it does every now and then. It does this typical, that's great, but I don't even pay attention to this. So I just don't even look at those particular responses. And I think it's also again understanding what a learning model really is. And I think this is the most fundamental aspect of using those tools. And what I just like to add to your point, what you said in terms of guardrails, I think what's really important is that you outsource the things which you, for instance, have a hard time with in business, or when it's about communication where you struggle. So any AI tool should be in support of what you currently already are doing and should never fully replace something which requires quality control. I'm with you all the way. We tend to get lazy if everything is provided for us. So we need to make a conscious, proactive effort in keeping ourselves engaged and putting in the work. Because that's, I think, also the most dangerous part about AI. It makes us lazy. And we tend to not double check sources and resources. So we must remain very, what's it called, scientific about data checks and how we create knowledge and how we generate knowledge, and also what we take from it. I think that's really the one of the most important guardrails for me, at least, and for anyone else, I'd say. And then also never let go of human interaction. So I think we tend to, again, because it's comfortable, reach out to the AI agent at 2:00 in the morning, and it might help. But true co-regulation, that's something which I am of now still of the opinion will never be replaced by AI. So regulating someone else through the nervous system and understanding nuances, which neuroception does. Of course, AI can in the future scan your vitals and stuff and understand when you're in different nervous system states, but truly regulating, unless it injects you with some medicine, I mean, might happen, but understanding, feeling someone, the nuances, you transmit information all the time through your nervous system. And especially neurodivergent people, it's not all of them, some of them are more deceptive not deceptive, but they have a better antenna for neuroception. So they will feel more, they get the information, they have a better alignment with that.
Yeah, I mean, also side note about autistic people, we oftentimes have this strange thing of we rather live at the extremes of the emotions. And it doesn't have to mean that it's dramatic. It's not like that, but you can feel really deeply about things and persons and other beings and everything. Yet on this, let's say, mid-level spectrum of emotions, where the day-to-day stuff and gossip happens, you're oftentimes not really there. And so this is for autistic people, it's sometimes weird because you can experience how actually feel deeply, but it's hard to connect with neurotypicals who are like, oh my God, this decoration and your new dress, it's so beautiful. Oh, I'm so excited for you. You just don't get it. It's like, what the fuck's going on here? And on the other side, it might be that you see a dog who's having a great time playing with his toy, and it kind of touches you to see, oh my God, this dog he's just illuminated, or how to say it, he's such a joyful sight right now to look at this dog. It really moves me in a way, whereas other people go, oh yeah, great, he's having fun with his toy. And, it's not.
But I think that has to do with a lot of safety.
Um,
You know, people are usually not safe, and then animals tend to be safe. So the willingness to open up to those souls
mm,
is more accessible
yeah,
than to
exactly.
human beings, because not all human beings, but I think this is being being brought up in social norm, especially for neurodivergent people, tends to leave traumatic scars, and then those are replicated in any human contact. And that's why there is this within social media, there is also this funny real situation going on where you have autistic people tending more to animals. And I understand that because, again, oxytocin comes from animals, and autistic people have not been exposed too much to oxytocin throughout their life. And also, oftentimes, they lack oxytocin compared to neurotypicals, which then, of course, has effects on
Mm,
social mirroring and also the feeling of connection and, also self-soothing. So it's all connected in a way. And that's why animal plays
exactly.
such a big role.
Yeah, let's go deeper on that topic in another talk
Sure,
because it's huge and we are running out of time right now.
we
So
are actually.
you, to wrap it up,
Wrap it up.
enjoy your AI usage, yeah, and go for it. Just make sure to have your boundaries and here and there to talk to other human beings. It's worth it.
Exactly. Talk more to human beings.